is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Happy Halloween. Welcome to the special Halloween episode of the Off the Dome Sports Podcast, your favorite sports podcast where two sports lovers give their hot takes off the dome. Hopefully you're watching at home right now on the Radio House Studios Facebook, YouTube, Twitch account. If not, you're probably listening on newrockradio.us. Newrockradio.us, streaming the best rock music 24/7. Only downfall is you don't get to see these great costumes we're wearing right now. Go ahead, drop your answers in the chat of who you think we are, if you know. If you don't know, we'll tell you in just a little bit. Don't you worry. But like I said, this is the Off the Dome Sports Podcast. We want to thank Ezzy for that intro song. It's called Off the Dome. Pretty well named for us over here. Make sure to tune into newrockradio.us, newcountryradio.us, also a new one. Make sure to listen in on that. Byron looks like he'd fit in perfectly for that radio station today.
Yeah.
With that hat. We also want to thank our sponsor, Brignac Mortgage. Sean Brignac, CEO, president. He can help you in all your investment needs, whether it's residential, commercial, all the properties. He's got you. Check out Sean on YouTube, Sean Brignac. Also check out www.brignacmortgage.com. We want to thank Sean again, Brignac Mortgage, for supporting us, both New Rock Radio and the Off the Dome Sports Podcast. If you're looking to sponsor the Off the Dome Sports Podcast like Sean is, make sure to check us out, studio@newrockradio.us or newrockradio.us on Facebook. We have some introductory packages for the show, so make sure to check us out. So, before we get moving on, let's talk about what we're doing right now, because I have a bald cap on. Whether it's comfortable or not is completely irrelevant. It's part of the costume. You know, it's Halloween. So why don't you explain to the people what we're working with today?
Well, I'd like to start off by saying that our sponsor has a great first name, similar to mine.
Yeah.
I am the sexy boy himself, HBK.
The Heartbreak Kid.
Shawn Michaels.
And I am the Texas Rattlesnake.
How many beers you had?
1 bear.
What?
2 bears.
What?
3 bears.
What?
4 bears.
What?
5 bears.
What?
6 bears.
What?
And a Bloody Mary.
What?
Not actually, I don't drink. But, root beers maybe. But yeah, I am a Stone Cold Steve Austin. We threw it back to the 90s with some wrestlers. Any good reason why? Not really.
Nope, not at all.
Just kind of felt like it, and now we look like doofuses, but hey, we're having fun.
Absolutely. That's what it's all about.
You know what else is fun?
Sundays.
When the Saints win. Boy, oh boy. We some dogs. Saints won the game 24-0 on Sunday, huh?
Yeah.
That was crazy.
A shutout.
Beautiful. Can't ask for much more.
Against a high-powered offense.
Oh, absolutely. Got tons of weapons. We played the Las Vegas Raiders, and we shut them out. They that Raiders offense, whether they have the weapons or chemistry, like they were supposed to be really good, and they had 183 yards all game on offense. Shout out to the Saints defense, man.
Yeah, especially with these injuries, man. Like Lattimore didn't play. We saw Paulson Adebo and Alontae Taylor, 2 really young guys, step up big this game and completely shut out Devontae Adams.
Yeah.
He had 1 catch for 3 yards.
And we're gonna talk about Alontae Taylor in a minute. But first, let's get to that run defense, because we were talking on the last episode about, what's the key to Saints winning this game, and one of our buddies told us that shutting down Josh Jacobs was probably our key to winning, and that's exactly what happened. 10 carries for 43 yards. 4.3 yards per carry isn't bad. It's all right. But if you take out one 16-yard carry that he had, and then you average it out, he had 9 carries for 27 yards, 3 yards per carry, which is a very, very low number, especially for a guy who's rushed for over 120 yards like 4 weeks in a row. So that run defense proved that they're still as good as they've been. We've talked about it multiple times throughout the season that they were a top 5 unit over the past 5 years, and this year they have not been as good. And then they figured it out on Sunday, and they shut down one of the premier running backs this year.
Yeah, he had that that big carry early in the game, and as soon as I saw that, I was like, oh, here we go. It's going to be one of these. They're just going to be able to run all over us. But after that one 16-yard carry, he was quiet the rest of the game. Defensive line just shut down all the gaps. And even if he did manage to break through, linebackers were there to stop him.
Yeah, love to see it. They didn't get much going in the passing game either. Derek Carr did not play well, and you made this comment Sunday after the game when we were watching in the car, and you said Derek Carr is the best worst quarterback in the league, which is very true, because he's like one step away from being in the top names, but he's also one step away from getting benched at all times. It's so weird to see. He's kind of in that Kirk Cousins tier.
Yeah.
But
because we see him perform week and week after each other, and they tend to have a few more bad games than some of the top dogs do, but they still produce when it matters.
Yeah. I mean, but okay, good one, Sound Man. But yeah, he didn't perform well this game. Like I said, Saints held them to 183 total yards of offense. Derek Carr had barely over 100 yards, and it got to a point where they were playing their backup quarterback for part of the game. So, shout out to the Saints defense. Not only did they play well in the pass and in the run, they also put pressure on the quarterback. Had 4 sacks total. Peyton Turner, first-round pick from last year, very surprise pick, and then he gets 2 sacks this game. We haven't seen him, completely show out yet, and this was kind of his first game where it was like, oh, here he is. And he looked good, man. Shout out to Peyton Turner. That entire defensive line played absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, no doubt. Another guy who I think has been looking outstanding all season, it's another young guy, and Pete Werner.
Yeah.
I mean, coming out of college, he was considered more of like a breakdown, can tackle a running back, but they used him a lot in pass rush because he was quick.
Mm-hmm.
Now we see the Saints using him as a pass coverage linebacker, and he's sticking with
everything,
just about anybody.
Yeah, he's actually leading the league in solo tackles right now. Not total tackles, but he has 51 solo tackles on the season, leading the entire NFL. So Pete Werner, he was a third round pick out of New Orleans Saints North, as I like to call it, the Ohio State University. Ohio State University. Words are hard.
Yeah.
But
I think he had too many beers.
Yeah, too many roots, man. Too many roots. But yeah, Ohio State always gives us some good players on our team, and Pete Werner is one of them. He's playing really, really well. Another guy who's playing really well, another young guy, Alontae Taylor. This is a guy you've been a really big fan of, not only recently, but even when everybody else doubted the pick, you were like, I see him. So what are you seeing out of Alontae Taylor right now that you're really...
I saw him in college, one of the most versatile players on that Tennessee defense, and without a doubt the most underrated person on that Tennessee defense. A lot of people were doubting him when we picked him. They're like, oh, I've never even heard of this guy. I watched some tape on him right after we picked him, and I liked what I saw instantly because I knew he could play any position in that secondary. And we're seeing him not only be able to go all over the field and play each position to a decent amount, but we're seeing him lock up top receivers in back-to-back weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. Alontae Taylor had 3 pass breakups this week, which pass breakups are a weird stat, but, even a good corner will get about 12 of them on a season, and he had 3 of them this week. So Alontae had a great game, locked up Davante Adams. They threw at Davante Adams 5 times when Alontae Taylor was the nearest coverage guy, and he that was the only time he got it. He got 1 catch.
Yeah.
He got 1 catch when Alontae Taylor was the main shout out Reese. Perfect timing for his lunch break, he says. So I'm glad you could be here, Rebo. But yeah, Alontae Taylor, when he was the nearest defender, Davante Adams had 1 catch. That's great numbers from a rookie. And like you were saying, most versatile. When we traded away Chauncey, it was kind of assumed that Alontae would take over that nickel role. And not only is he playing the nickel, but now that Marshawn's out, he's playing outside. And he can even drop back into a deep third or deep half like a safety and still play really, really well. So very happy to see Alontae Taylor playing well. The offense, they weren't
outstanding, but they didn't need to be.
Right, exactly.
They did their job just as well as the defense did because they took time off that clock.
Yeah, exactly. They did everything they needed to do, and they scored 24 points. It's not like they were terrible, but the word I would use is efficient. That's what they were. They weren't like, oh, we're blowing them out, and they weren't like all over the field looking great, but they were super efficient. 22-30, 229 yards and 2 touchdowns for Andog Dogton. Andy had a great game. He apparently listened to us when we were talking about Jameis last episode because he figured it out.
Yeah, he said this
he
is
looked
my
good.
moment.
Yeah, he said, "Oh shoot, off the dome's talking about me. I gotta figure it out." So shout out to Andog, another guy who played absolutely fantastic. Had his first breakout game of the year as far as touchdowns go because he had his first touchdown, his second touchdown,
What?
and his third touchdown of the year, all in one game. Alvin Kamara. You know, we said against the Seahawks, he had a very quiet 200-yard game where he had like 98 reception yards and 93 rushing yards or something, like very close to having 200 yards on the game. And then this game, he has 18 carries for 61 yards, 9 receptions for 96 yards, and 3 total touchdowns. And you're like, yeah, that's Kamara. He's back. He's healthy. And all this trade talk, he must have been like, trade who?
Who do you think I am?
What? Who we trading?
I'm
You
not
ain't
the
trading
one.
me. And, yeah, he showed up and showed out. Alvin Kamara had an absolutely fantastic game. If you're to trade, I mean, of course, his value is probably a little bit higher now. But if you were to trade him now, it's like you don't even want to win. Because we proved this game. You give him, like we were talking about last game, he should be getting like over 20 opportunities a game. This game, they give him 27, and look what he does. So get the ball in the best player's hands. That's what the Saints need to do. And when they do it, they win.
Big.
Very big. 24 points big. Olave, you know, he had an off day for what we've seen so far from him. Just kind of for his standards, I guess we would say. He had only 5 receptions for 59 yards, but he didn't need to have a big day.
Yeah.
He didn't have a touchdown. You know, I think he even had a drop. But even though he didn't look great, we still won the game, and to me, that's what's important.
Yeah,
So-
I'm looking forward to this team moving forward.
Yeah. I think
Even
we
if it's
definitely
not
figured
this
it out.
year, definitely next year. But even this year, we still have a shot because the NFC South all has losing records.
As our buddy Reese would say, they are horrid. Yeah. The Falcons are the only team without a losing record, and they're 4-4. So it's not like they're very good.
They beat the Panthers in an overtime shocker.
Shout out to our buddy Jalen, who was with us when we were watching the game. He is a Falcons fan, and
He was not happy.
he had about 17 heartbreaks in the last 3 minutes of that game. That was an interesting game.
So the Falcons went ahead by 6 points. They kicked a field goal to go ahead by 6 points with 40 seconds left in the game. The Panthers had no timeouts left, and they went down the field. I think they ran 3 plays, got to like the 40 or 50, and then threw a bomb to DJ Moore to tie it up.
Yeah. And then they
missed the extra point, and the game went into overtime.
And then the Panthers get the ball, drive down the field, 33-yard field goal on the right hash, and he hooks it. And then the Falcons end up getting the ball back. Younghoe Koo, your man, ends up making the field goal for the win. So even though we hate the Falcons like very much, they did the most anti-Falcons thing of all time and actually win a close game. So they are currently in first place in the NFC South, but the Saints are in second with the Panthers and the Buccaneers trailing in third and fourth. So it's a close division. None of them are playing really well. I think this is where it starts that run where it's like, hey, if you want this, it's time to do it.
Yeah,
And with the way the Saints played,
they won it.
with the way that defense played yesterday, they won it. You can tell they won it. And I'm very, very happy that we're starting to look better. Moving on from the New Orleans Saints to something that's going on right now. We've touched on a lot recently, but didn't talk about much in the beginning. The World Series.
Yeah.
Baseball. Shout out to baseball. Currently, series is tied 1-1. We're looking at the Philadelphia Phillies versus the Houston Astros. What have you been seeing so far in this series?
Not what I predicted.
Yeah. Agreed.
Especially in that first game, I was like, oh, Verlander's going to come out. Nola's going to come out. It's going to be a low game. Astros said otherwise. They started off the game with a 5-0 lead.
Mm-hmm.
And the Phillies answered, tied it up, sent it to extra innings, and eventually won the first game 6-5. Astros took that personally.
Yep.
And once again, in the second game, came out with a 5-0 lead. But this time, they held on to it.
Yeah. So the first game ended up 11 total runs. Second game, 7 total runs after the Phillies scored 2. We both said it would be a pitching battle all series, where we'd be seeing games something like 2-1, 3-2, low scoring games, and then they're coming out and they're hitting.
Yeah.
Both the Astros in particular, their bats are moving, which you would expect. They have really good offense and defense, but there's a lot more hitting than I expected. Which makes it exciting. First game of the series going to extra innings. That's great. That's a great start to a World Series. I think they play again tonight. Last time we kept on talking about how the game was that night, and it actually wasn't that night, so that's on us. If y'all were trying to turn into the World Series after we said that, we were wrong. But, yeah, I'm almost 100% sure that the game is tonight in Philly. It'll be their first game in Philly. They're postponed due to inclement weather, so they will be playing tomorrow. Glad we double-checked that one.
Yeah.
But, yeah, Astros versus Phillies. It's a pretty good series so far. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, it's a lot more watchable than a pitching battle because it tends to get a little boring until like towards the end of the game where everyone's on the edge of their seat waiting for a hit. But with games like this, people are just constantly up and down cheering for their team, respectively, whatever side you're on. And it just makes it more exciting to me.
Yeah, no, it's a very fun series to watch, and I think it's gonna be pretty back and forth throughout this entire series. Whether the series can end in 5 games, like the one team can sweep the rest of it, and I still feel like it's a close series just because of the way they're playing, the back and forth that they're having, and the kind of potential that you can see from both teams. So, I'm excited. Do you still have the Astros winning after what you've seen?
Yes.
Astros in 5?
Yes. Gentleman's sweep.
Gentleman's sweep. I'll still take the Phillies to win. I think it's going to be tougher than I thought, even though everyone knows the Astros are a very, very, very good team. I still like the Phillies, I think. Moving on from baseball to basketball, Pels are looking good.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying this Pels team, that's for sure.
No doubt.
So, like I kind of mentioned earlier, we were in the car basically all day yesterday. And
very long time.
Yeah. So we watched the Saints game while we were driving. We watched other NFL games while we were driving. And we caught up with the Pels game as much as we could. And they played a Clippers team that we all expected to be very, very good. Now they were without Kawhi Leonard. However, we still beat them by 21 points. It's pretty good from a Pels team without Brandon Ingram. So I'm very excited. Zion came back. That's exciting.
Yeah.
Had 21, 12, and 7. Nearly a triple-double in his first game back from injury after missing the past 3 games. So, man, this Pels team, they can make a run. I feel it. I feel it in my bones. Rebo said, Point Z, near triple-dub. That's very true. He was playing point some yesterday.
Yeah.
I read on Twitter they had a point in the game that Jose Alvarado was the one handling the ball coming down the floor. And Zion posts up like he normally does, just sitting there with his hand up. And he moves to the top of the key to take the ball, and he starts playing point at the top of the possession. Jose doesn't, really think about it. He keeps dribbling out. And Billy Hernangomez screams at him and said, Zay, pass it to Z. So he passes to Zion, and Zion starts playing point from then on out. So that's kind of a little cool team chemistry story to hear. And I really like the opportunity they're giving Zion to play more than just that post-up 4 who's super athletic and going to dunk on you. He's kind of getting the chance to show all of his game.
Yeah, I mean, he's a very versatile player. We've seen that even a few years ago when he was in college. We've seen him move around the floor a little bit, but I think now in the NBA, where competition's a little tougher, he's going to have to adapt, and I think he's doing it well.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking about the competition in the NBA, it's great.
It's weird.
This NBA season is weird.
It's just like the NFL season.
Yeah, very much like how the NFL season's been going. So bad teams are good teams are bad, or who we thought would be bad and who we thought would be good. Teams like the Spurs and the Jazz are 5-2. Never would have expected the Spurs and the Jazz to have 5 wins this early in the season. And then you have teams who, like the Nets and the Clippers, who the Nets are 1-5 and the Clippers are 2-4. That's two teams that everyone thought would be, top 4 or 5 seed in their conference. And now I know it's only 2 weeks in the season. You can't base everything off of right now, but they're sitting at the 13, 14, 15 spot.
Yeah, they're going to have to play catch-up for the rest of the season almost.
Yeah,
if they don't get it together soon.
What do you think's going on in the NBA right now? Like, what's causing all this madness?
I couldn't tell you if I tried.
Fair enough.
I think it's just a lot of players trying to prove themselves.
Yeah,
and a lot of players thinking they already proved themselves.
Yeah, and I think there was a lot of turnover this offseason too. Like, a lot of teams don't look the same that they did last year.
Especially the Jazz.
That's the exact team I had in mind. I mean, they have almost none of their starters from last season. Rudy Gobert's gone. Lauri Markkanen is now there. Donovan Mitchell's gone. Mike Conley's still there. I mean, Royce O'Neal is getting starting minutes. I mean, this team is just strange. And yet somehow they're winning games, including the one they beat the Pels earlier on in this season. So the Utah Jazz are looking, a lot better than I thought they would. Same goes for the Spurs. Keldon Johnson has been playing really, really, really well for the San Antonio Spurs. Shout out to Keldon Johnson. And then, like we were talking about, Royce O'Neal plays for the Nets now? Jeez, look, this shows how much I know. But speaking about the Nets, I mean, they stink too.
Yeah.
I mean, KD, I saw this tweet that kind of speaks to, it's true, it's just weird in the current NBA status. It's like when KD used to drop 30 for the Thunder, you'd be like, oh my, KD had a day. He dropped 30 points. And now KD will drop 35 and the Nets will still lose by 15. So I don't know if it's the NBA changing as a whole or if it's just, that many points isn't a dominant performance anymore, or whether or not KD can lead a winning team, or who's around him. I mean, Ben Simmons stinks. We all know that. That dude might be the worst player on the court at any given time. But I don't know what's going on with the Nets, and then the same thing with the Clippers. I mean, I had them as the 1 seed in the West, and they're 2-4 right now, and they don't look that good, especially without Kawhi.
Yeah, real quick, I'll go through the just the top 10 in the power rankings to see where we're at now compared to where we started or where the preseason rankings.
Yeah.
Were. So the Bucks are number 1,
only undefeated team. Makes sense.
The Suns are number 2, 5-1.
We all thought they would take a step back, and they're pretty much still rolling.
Yeah. The Cavs are number 3, 5-1.
Cavs, a team everybody expected to be pretty good, but 3's even higher than expected.
Now, the team that's coming out of nowhere, but might fall off soon because of an injury to a key player, Portland Trailblazers are number 4 at 5-1.
Wow.
But Dame's going to be out. He said probably 1 to 2 weeks.
And that was like a couple days ago. So he's probably going to be out a total of like 6 games maybe? 6 to 7 games?
Who has been key to those wins so far.
Yeah, absolutely.
Number 5, your Boston Celtics, who are 4-2.
Shout out to the Celtics. Ime Udoka, who? What?
Number 6, the Utah Jazz, who are
Crazy.
5-2. They went from 30th in preseason rankings to 6th.
That's insane. Lauri Markkanen and Jordan Clarkson are putting the team on their back.
Right behind them is our New Orleans Pelicans at number 7, 4-2.
Top 10, baby.
Denver Nuggets are 8th, 4-3.
Makes sense.
Warriors are 9th, 3-4.
3-4. Losing record for the defending champs.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And 10th, we have the Dallas Mavericks, who are 3-3.
I feel like, you mentioned 4 teams have 1 or less loss? 5 teams?
The top 4 teams.
Top 4 teams have 1 loss or less. Everyone else is kind of in between that. That's kind of speaking to that parity we've been talking about. It's just you don't know who's going to win on any given night.
Yeah.
The only team is not going to win, other than last night, the Lakers. The Lakers finally won a game last night against the Nuggets, but still not convinced they're very good. Soundman says he's cashing tickets on them. Speaking about cashing tickets, our bets from this weekend didn't look great, bud.
My road dog did.
Well, I guess your road dog. My road dog didn't. That's for sure. I had the Giants against the Seahawks as my road dog. They lost by like 14.
Yeah.
They got blown out.
Yeah, I knew the Seahawks were. They're a tough team to beat.
Mm-hmm.
Saints beat them, but that offense is just continues to impress. Geno Smith in particular.
Yeah, Geno Smith has been looking absolutely fantastic. But yeah, your road dog did hit. Who'd you have?
The Commanders, who were 3.5-point underdogs, beat the Colts.
Yeah, makes sense.
Battle of the backups. Taylor Heineke was starting for the Commanders, and Sam Ellinger was starting for the Colts.
Yeah, battle of the backups, and hey, Heineke did it.
Yeah.
So looks like he'll be getting some blue and white Jordans pretty soon. He gets a pair of Jordans every time he beats a team in the other team's colors. It's a great move from him. We also had, our last episode was on Thursday, and we made Friends of the Pod parlay with all of our buddies, and that thing it didn't hit. I didn't even know whose legs lost and whose legs won, but none of it. Like, it was all bad. Mark Andrews went down early, and we had him as an anytime touchdown scorer. I think Lamar may have gotten his rushing yards, maybe not. Tom Brady didn't hit his under on yards. Like, we were all over the place. We stunk. But you know who didn't stink? Soundman. He hit on his.
Always does.
Always does. He had Ravens +2 and over 46. Those hit. Ravens ended up winning the game 27-22. So, shout out to Soundman. This guy can't ever take a break from the negativity, can he? Dang Rebo. But anyway. And then we all at the end of the episode we picked the winner of all the NFL games, and we both did pretty good. Based on the 14 games so far this week, we have the 15th one coming up tonight.
We both took Bengals tonight, huh?
We're gonna talk about it, don't you worry.
I meant from like the last episode when we predicted all the wins.
We didn't talk about it yet. We saved it for tonight.
Oh,
Yeah. Okay. Don't you worry. I told you, don't you worry.
Well, I guess y'all know who I'm picking to win.
I guess you know who I'm picking to win too. But yeah, we picked all the games. I went 10 for 14, so only missed 4 games. Not bad.
Yeah, and I went 11 for 14.
You did this last week too. You one up me every time. Every time you one up me.
I think the one was I picked the Seahawks and you picked the Giants.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thunk. Yeah, there was only one game where we both missed on, and that was Broncos Jags.
Yeah, we both picked the Jags.
Yeah, the Broncos actually won a game for once. Kind of crazy to think about. It
was in London, so maybe that's what it takes. Maybe if they play all their games in London.
And they might win. Maybe Russell Wilson only plays well out of the States, because in the United States, that man is like trash. Sorry, Russ. And then we've talked about some past bets. Let's give a good bet for tonight. So we're going to talk about Monday Night Football just a little bit later, but let's go ahead and let's give a parlay for tonight. It'll kind of hint at what we think is going to happen tonight, but not fully. We can give a little breakdown in a minute. But why don't you give a Soundman's parlay first? His always seems to hit pretty well.
Yeah. He took the Bengals spread and the over, which I believe is at 46. I'm going to double check that in a second, but I believe it's 46, and it is at plus 250. The Bengals spread is also at minus 3.5, so they are favored to win by 3.5.
Okay. He said, I texted him earlier, and I was like, hey, what's your bet for tonight? We always like you to give a bet because you're really good at it. And he said, I don't love this. And I'm like, dude, that's either really good or really bad news for me, because I agree with what he picked. I looked at that and I was like, oh, that's a great bet. So I don't know if I'm a really bad bettor. Oh, it's at 45.
It's at 45.5.
So yeah, I mean, you can take it either way. But yeah, I really like that bet. Bengals spread and over 45. The spread's at -3. So as long as they win by more than a field goal, which we'll talk about it. He got it at 45. All right.
Okay.
Would you make a your parlay tonight, man?
I also took the Bengals spread, which is at minus 3.5. And then I took both running backs, Nick Chubb and Joe Mixon, anytime touchdown for plus 547.
Some pretty good odds. I mean, those anytime touchdowns really get you up there. But if there's any two players in this game who are going to score a touchdown, the running backs are a good bet. Two of the best running backs in the league.
Yeah, especially running backs of this caliber. You got Nick Chubb, who's just the workhorse over there in Cleveland. He's just so big. We've seen him just completely demolish defenses by himself. And then you got Joe Mixon, who might be the most balanced running back in the league between pass catching and rushing. We've seen him do it all, especially in that air raid offense when everyone's expecting the Bengals to go deep and they just dump it off to him underneath. He gets a good chunk.
Yeah, I really like Joe Mixon. I think he's a really, really good back. I think last year was kind of his show out year where he had always shown he can be really good. He always showed his potential. And then last year, the year that they went on that Super Bowl run, he showed he was really one of the best, and he's been doing it just as well this season. And then I, of course, agree with everything you said about Nick Chubb. He's fantastic. He's one of the very few. Him and Derrick Henry are like the only two like power backs left who can still effectively run for over 100, 120 yards per game. So my parlay, I also have Nick Chubb scoring a touchdown. I think it's almost a given every game. He's going to get in the end zone. If they're in the red zone, he's probably going to get 4 carries. He's just that good.
Seahawks should have run the ball.
If they had Nick Chubb, they probably still would have passed it because they had Marshawn Lynch. That always cracks me up. But yeah, Bengals. I have Bengals money line, Nick Chubb anytime touchdown, so that gives away who I'm picking. And then I have T. Higgins and Amari Cooper, both over 50 yards. Now we're gonna talk about why I have T. Higgins instead of their big time receiver when we get to the actual game breakdown. But yeah, T. Higgins and Amari Cooper both over 50 yards. I feel like that's fairly safe. Neither defense is like absolutely locked down. So the number one receiver could easily get 50 yards. Bengals money line, Nick Chubb anytime touchdown, and you can get that at plus 733. So that's some fairly high odds. So put a little bit of money on that, see what happens for you. So something we haven't done recently, but we used to do it every episode, is talk about fantasy football. We haven't talked about fantasy football that much recently, so on the earlier episodes we talked about our league of record, or as we call it, Big Money League. It's the league we care the most about, we talk the most about, we interact with the most. So why don't we give the people a little bit of a rundown of how that league is going, what our record is, what's going on.
Okay, so my team, the Lettuce, has started out great and then took a turn, injuries and this and that. I've been rather healthy, except the past 2 to 3 weeks. My receivers couldn't stay healthy. That being Deebo Samuel, who was out this week, Rashad Bateman, who was out the past 3 weeks. He actually started the game Thursday.
Played like one snap and then was out.
And then they took him out for the rest of the game.
Yeah.
And Terry McLaurin, who stayed healthy, but just really hasn't put up the numbers that he was expected to. I'm 4-4 in that league. I lost in unbelievable fashion this week. I played against the top scoring offense, who put up almost 180 fantasy points.
For that league, that is a ton.
Yeah.
For the people who don't recognize that, in that league, 180 points is like I'd say the average is between 130 to 145.
Yeah, like you
for
could,
a winning team.
Yeah, you could
for
win
a winning
game.
team.
You could win a game putting up 115, 120.
Yeah.
And it would people wouldn't bat an eye. It's not like that's a low score, because I'm probably going to put up like 130 and lose.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I still have Joe Mixon left to play, but I'm down by 70 points.
Shout out to Paul.
Yeah, he had Derrick Henry, who put up 50, Tony Pollard, who put up 40, Tyreek Hill, who put up 32 without catching a touchdown.
Gee whiz. Yeah, you know, there comes a point where it's not even your fault anymore, and this is one of those times.
Yeah, it's just one of those weeks.
It's just one of those weeks.
I'll bounce back next week.
Yeah. So 4-4. What do you think for the rest of the season? You think you can
I think I definitely can. I have the players. I know I do. They perform week in and week out. I'm not really, battling between who I should start, who I shouldn't. It's kind of set in stone. If they stay healthy, I think I could see myself making a run for the playoffs. It's going to be tough, being I'm 4-4, but there's a lot of people in this league who are kind of in the middle of the pack right now. It's not. I mean, there's Randall who's 0-7, about to be 0-8.
Shout out to the Dantons.
And there's Soundman who is 7-1.
Thanks, Soundman.
But between them, everybody else is pretty even.
Yeah, we're kind of in that. So for the people who don't know, Rebo, he's in the chat all the time. He's always watching us. One of our best friends. Rebo and I co-own a team in this league. The Rhythm and Blues is what we're called.
R&B,
baby. But we are 5-3 after this week. We played one of the greatest people alive. One of the greatest fantasy football players I know who doesn't even draft his own team.
Or he said, I don't want to talk about the yo-yo.
The yo-yo. Yeah, the Soundman's team, the yo-yo smugglers. He put a whooping on us this week, And it's not that we had a bad week. We scored 122. You could win a week scoring 122. We would have beat 7 other teams in the league. But, yeah, he had Jalen Hurts.
He had the stack.
He had Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown, who combined for 80 points alone. 80 points those two dudes combined for. So, Soundman beat us this week. It was an unfortunate circumstance for the Rhythm and Blues, but we'll bounce back. I really like our team. We have 2 top 10 quarterbacks. We have Tua, who started this week for us because our starter Justin Herbert's out, and he's technically the 17th ranked quarterback.
But
he's missed 3 weeks.
Yeah.
He has 4 games this year over 20, including 1 at 62 and 1 at 42. So Tua is a great fantasy quarterback. We also have Justin Herbert, who is also a top 10 quarterback, obviously. First 2 weeks, he scored 35, and then last week against Seattle, he had 28.
Yeah, Jacksonville gave him a hurting, too.
Yeah, well, he scored 20 against Jacksonville still. His worst game was actually against Denver, and he had 15. So Justin Herbert, great fantasy quarterback. We're in that position where it's like, if something were to go down, we still feel good at that quarterback position.
Mm-hmm.
I think what's kind of killing us right now is what kills everybody is the running backs. Running backs in fantasy football are so few and far between. If you don't get one of the top 5 guys, you were kind of trying to scheme every week to try to figure out who you're starting.
I felt like this was a big week for running backs, too. I think there was something like in our league, I think it was like 5 or 6 different running backs had over 40 points.
Yeah, and we have Dalvin, who scored 33. He had a great game. But Zeke was out. Zeke is normally our RB2. We saw Tony Pollard in real life and in fantasy. He filled in for Zeke, and he played absolutely fantastic. So it'll be interesting to see what happens when Zeke actually comes back, how they utilize him. I'm not really worried about it, but he's typically our RB2. Was injured this week, so we didn't have him. We had Benjamin in, and then So here was what our debate was before this week. Our defense wasn't going to cut it this week, so we had to find a different defense, and we were trying to decide between the Miami Dolphins and the Washington Manders. Reese wanted you didn't even draft. Yeah, you didn't. You know what, Soundman, you didn't draft. I was one of those people who was like, stop hating on the man for not drafting. He couldn't be there. Blah 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 blah. But now that I played him and he beat me, I'm on the other side. You didn't draft your team. You stink. But
called in a ringer.
Yeah. You better have given him a good chunk of cash. Lionel Frankenstein isn't even real. But yeah, we had the Dolphins defense, and they put up a whopping 0 points against the Detroit Lions. My Detroit Lions. So it kind of bit me in the butt that I like the Detroit Lions because, I love the Detroit Lions because I think they should win every game because they're that good. They should. And then they come back around and they make my defense score 0 points in fantasy. Not only did my defense score 0 points, my kicker scored 0 points because you know who I had? Daniel Carlson, the Raiders kicker. Their whole team scored 0. So therefore, he also scored 0. So between my defense and my kicker, I got a whopping total of 0 points. Can't win weeks like that.
And the Lions lost.
And the Lions, nothing good came out of that Miami Detroit game other than Tua putting up 42. But I still lost anyway, so who cares? But yeah, we're 5-3. Outlook for the season, I still feel good. We've got a good team. We were 5-2. We were 4th in the league, and we have a really good situation. I think we have a really good squad. I feel good about our team. I don't feel like we're gonna I don't feel like we're in fear of missing the playoffs or anything like that. I feel like we're in a pretty good spot. So I'm feeling good about the Rhythm and Blues this year. It's gonna be tough to go up against teams like Soundman and Alex also has a really good team.
He does.
Ben also has a really good team, which I think we've already beat Ben this year. So, did the Lions blow a 17-point lead?
Yes.
TJ Hawkinson scored his projected, though. So, didn't underperform. Right? Is that how that worked?
Yeah.
So, shout out
Ertz
TJ
is still
Hawkinson.
playing great for me.
Yeah, I bet he is. And that Elijah Mitchell trade still don't look great, huh? But yeah, fantasy football. I'm feeling good about the Rhythm and Blues. So shout out Rebo. We did a good job drafting, buddy, and we've done some decent stuff in free agency. So I'm not worried about it. I'm still feeling good about our league of record. Moving on from league wide to specifically tonight. I said we're going to get into the breakdown, which we're going to right after this. Who is your fantasy MVP for tonight's Monday Night Football game?
Tonight, I see Nick Chubb being the big guy for could win you or lose you.
Could lose you.
A game in fantasy football tonight. Bengals defense, we've seen them either completely dominate a team or have to heavily rely on that offense to win games.
Yeah.
And they always seem to struggle with divisional opponents.
Yeah, I think the divisional aspect of it does bring in a lot, for sure.
So that's why I'm going to take Nick Chubb. I think he'll probably get a lot of touches this game.
Mm-hmm.
Might see the end zone more than once.
More than once, you say? That'd be interesting. But, I like that. We talked about how we both think these running backs are great. You had both of them scoring a touchdown. You had one of them as your fantasy MVP. I'll go with the other one.
Yeah.
I think Joe Mixon's going to have a fantastic game tonight.
I hope you're right. I hope he puts up 71 points.
That's not going to happen, but for your sake, maybe he does. Hopefully for you.
If he does, I won't be 4-4. I'll be 5-3.
Nice. Same record as us. You can one-up me in wins, but boy, I'm one-upping you right now in fantasy. Don't let me get hot. But, I have Joe Mixon as my fantasy MVP tonight. I think the Browns are like bottom 10 against running backs in fantasy football. And you've got a top 10 going up against a bottom 10. I'll definitely take that top 10. Joe Mixon has been playing absolutely fantastic. He's catching balls out of the backfield. He's rushing very well, and he always seems to find the end zone. I think Joe Mixon's going to have a great game. The way I see the game playing out, I think the Bengals are going to run the ball a lot in the second half because I think they're going to get out to an early lead. So that'll give Joe Mixon a lot of time to get the ball in his hands and make some plays.
Yeah, maybe like a 200 yards on the ground, 4 rushing touchdowns, like 100.
Maybe a reception touchdown.
120 receiving yards.
Yeah, no big deal. 320
another
all-purpose
touchdown,
yards,
yeah.
6 total touchdowns. I mean, like that Alvin Kamara Christmas game, that, but even better.
Hey, don't tease me like that.
But we've been teasing that. We've been teasing at it long enough. Monday Night Football is tonight, in about 30 minutes from now. So we're gonna keep this. Going to keep this to everybody can watch their Monday Night Football, go trick or treat, and do what you do on Halloween. Again, we want to thank everybody for watching. Before we get into this last little segment talking about Monday night, Bengals versus Browns tonight. Divisional matchup, AFC North. Bengals are favored by 3.5. Over under set at 45.5. Implied score is 25-21. These teams are moving opposite directions. Bengals right now, hot. Very hot. 4 out of their last 5 games they've won after starting off 0-2. They've beat the Jets, Dolphins, Saints, and Falcons, who are all, none of them are like really, really top-tier teams, but none of them are bottom-tier teams, really. They're all 4 still kind of in the hunt type teams, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, going into that Dolphins game, the Dolphins were one of those big teams.
Mm-hmm.
You saw them shut out the Raiders. I mean, the Ravens. And then beat the Bills.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like the Bengals have played a bunch of scrubs. And they're 4-3. They figured it out these last couple weeks. Browns, however, they've lost 4 in a row, which is crazy. I thought they started off too good, and apparently that was right because they're 2-5 right now. So we'll see. We'll see how this game goes. Bengals versus Browns. What are you looking forward to in this game, man?
Looking for a high-scoring game, especially from the Bengals' point.
Mm-hmm. Especially for Joe Mixon point.
Yeah. But no, I think these are 2 better than average offenses, to say the least. I mean, the Browns have kind of been off to a shaky start. Quarterback position was a big question mark at the start of the year. But Jacoby Brissett stepped in.
Hasn't been bad.
Not whatsoever. Has not been bad. We've just kind of seen them. It looks like they're beating themselves up in the games they've been playing.
Yeah, I would agree. I think, speaking about getting beat up, I think the injuries are going to play a big part in this game. The reason I was talking about T. Higgins getting the yards tonight instead of, all-star wide receiver Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase is out. They were considering putting him on IR due to a hip issue. They said he's probably going to be out 4 to 6 weeks, but they elected not to put him on the IR just in case he comes back sooner than expected.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that plays out. But Jamar Chase is going to be out at least tonight, probably again, and then probably again after that. So we'll see how that plays out. But yeah, how are the Bengals going to respond without their number 1 playmaker?
Well, they have a lot of playmakers on that offense, especially T. Higgins, Joe Mixon.
Tyler Boyd as well.
And new tight end pickup that they acquired this season, Hurst. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. He's been playing pretty good there.
He has been.
We saw C.J. Uzama last year really step out into the light because a lot of people had him as a bottom-tier tight end.
Yeah.
Going into that season, and he stepped up big time for that team. Not really doing so well this year.
No.
Pretty sure he got cut by the Jets.
Mm-hmm. But
that shows it goes to show what Joey Burrow can do.
Yeah, we've seen Joe Burrow make tight ends look effective. He did it in college with Thad Moss. Thad Moss looked like a really, really good tight end. Of course, he hasn't made it so far in the NFL, whatever the case may be. But Joe Burrow likes the tight end position. And like you were saying, Hayden Hurst has come in there, and he's been showing up very well. So, they could use Hayden Hurst, Joe Mixon out of the backfield, Samaje Perine, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd. The list goes on for the Bengals. They have a lot of playmakers. It sucks not having Jamar Chase, who had one of the best rookie years of all time last year, but I think they'll be all right. Other than Jamar Chase, they only have one other injury that's of note, and it's probably good news for them, honestly.
Yeah, probably better that he's injured than him.
Yeah, Eli Apple's out, so good for the Bengals not having to deal with him all game. It'll be really nice to not have to, look at burnt toast every time you look at the field from Zach Taylor's position. The Browns, though, are way more beat up than the Bengals are. The Browns are without 3 starters tonight. David Njoku starting tight end, Wyatt Teller starting right guard, and then Denzel Ward starting corner are all out for tonight. That's 3 big hits for that Browns team. David Njoku's been having a fantastic season. Seeing him go down, not great for that team, not great for my fantasy team either, in one of my other leagues. Denzel Ward, one of the premier corners in the league, also out. Not going to help when you have guys like T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd like we were talking about. And then Wyatt Teller, offensive lineman, not great when you have to go up against guys like Trey Hendrickson and B.J. Hill up the middle for the Bengals. And then you've also got guys like Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, Greg Newsome, Greedy Williams, all questionable. So if Denzel Ward's already out, Greg Newsome doesn't play, and Greedy Williams doesn't play, the Browns are without their top 3 corners. So that's going to be a very bad situation for Cleveland to have all 3 of your best corners out when you have one of the best wide receiver cores come to town, even without Jamar Chase. So, I think it's going to be an interesting game, to say the least. If you had to put it on one team, which team's injuries do you think are going to play more in to question? Is it going to be the Browns or the Bengals?
Oh, no doubt the Browns. They have much more key injuries. From a quantity standpoint, I think the Bengals have more of a quality injury reserve list. Or not, he's not on IR, but
yeah, they have
list.
the best player who's injured.
Yeah. But Denzel Ward, one of the best corners in the game. We've seen him prove that.
Mm-hmm.
He's got barbecue back there, and he didn't invite me.
We should have been Gus Johnson for Halloween. Yeah, and I mean, I think the Browns are definitely going to struggle to have those injuries out. That being said, we've already mentioned it multiple times, but I think we both have the Bengals winning this game. You went so far to say the spread, which was at 3.5. So, what do you think? What do you think the final score is going to be?
I have the Bengals on top, 31-20.
That's an 11-point swing. Think the Bengals are going to be that dominant tonight?
Yes.
Okay. So do I. I have the Bengals winning 27-17. So
yeah, I think they're on a hot streak right now. It's not unheard of for them to fall off, especially after losing Jamar Chase. But I think that T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd are going to step up and really show what they can do, even when, the focal point of the offense isn't there.
Yeah. I mean, Joe Burrow's had a fantastic past couple weeks. Last week, he had 481 yards, 3 touchdowns through the air, 1 on the ground. I mean, he had an amazing week last week. T. Higgins was on the receiving end of a lot of that. I think he'll do it again this week. I've got the Bengals winning 27-17. I like what the Bengals are doing so far, and the Browns are kind of on that downward slope. So that's what I've got going for tonight. Anything else to talk about on Monday Night Football?
No, I think that's it.
All right. Well, that's our sports talk for the night. Before we let y'all go, we want to mention one more thing. If you're anywhere near Garyville, Louisiana, Sings and Strings, it's going to be on Sunday, November 6th, 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. Very fun event. I've been a couple times.
Yeah.
It's pretty awesome.
Great atmosphere.
Oh, absolutely. If you want to show up, tickets are $5 in advance, $8 at the gate. So it's not like some expensive outing you got to go to. You just go, you have a good time. There's a cook-off for food. There's crafts. There's music. If you're a musician and you want to go play, you can actually get in free. You can go jam it up with everybody. I mean, it's a really fun time. Who doesn't want to go listen to live music and eat some great food?
Yeah, and they have tons of bands booked they have different stages set up. They have a place inside Fatty's in the bar where they have musicians rotating in and out. And then they also have spots that they call music hotspots where different musicians will gather. And, they're not getting paid. They're not booked or anything. They'll just show up and start playing at these certain spots. And if you're a musician, you could join in. If you're not, you could sit and listen and hear some great music out there.
As a musician yourself, I'm sure you love it.
Oh, absolutely.
You play at Sings and Strings?
I have before. We'll probably show up again Sunday.
Sweet deal. Yeah, it's definitely an awesome event. And I know one of our good friends, Peyton, helps put it on.
Yeah.
So definitely go check it out if you're around. Like we said, Sings and Strings, great event happening in beautiful, historic downtown Garyville. November 6th, 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. Great food, great atmosphere, great people, great music, all the good stuff. But like we've said, that's been this episode of the Off the Dome Sports Podcast. Make sure to check out Sings and Strings. Make sure to check out Sean Brignac at Brignac Mortgage, www.brignacmortgage.com. We want to thank everybody for watching in. Listen to us talk about our sports talks, looking like absolute doofuses. Stone Cold Steve Austin. What? Heartbreak Kid Shawn Michaels.
Yes, sir.
It's Halloween. Y'all go have some fun. Eat some candy.
Stay safe.
Please stay safe. Don't do anything dumb. Thank you for listening on newrockradio.us. Make sure to check us out on Twitter at @off_the_dome_pod. Check us out on Facebook, Off the Dome Sports Podcast. We also have our own YouTube channel, which on our next episode, which will be Friday,
Yes.
we should be streaming from both the Radio House account, streaming on newrockradio.us, and streaming on the Off the Dome Sports Podcast YouTube channel. So hopefully if we can get that figured out, we'll be on all 3 of those platforms. That way y'all can watch it the best way possible for you. And we'll also be uploading those videos after so you can go back and watch us. Been a really fun time. Love talking about sports. Love everybody who's watching. This has been the Off the Dome Sports Podcast, and we'll see you next time.
Took a break, but better hold your nose. Yeah, I've been cooking, don't inhale smoke. Been busy dropping hooks. Peter Pan can't leave his home. Hey, yeah, I prefer the backseat. I prefer a taxi. Who needs all the limelight?